When I first heard of the word human trafficking, I realized they were talking about me.
You know, there was a lot of trauma. Mom and Dad would be yelling and fighting with each other. And I remember waking up one morning with Mother having a black eye because he had hit her. He tried to get in the house and she'd locked him out.
I had an abusive upbringing. I was first raped at age 10. I told my mother what happened. She slapped me. She told me to get in the bathtub and scrub the scum off me. She said I was a whore. So that was the beginning of all the shame that I carried for years. And I met my trafficker at age 15. I thought he was my hero. He said he would take care of me. I felt very safe with him. He took me shopping, bought me new clothes, took me nice places, showed me off all the time and bragged about me. He started beating me. Whenever I looked at somebody, I couldn't make eye contact with anyone. And eventually he forced me onto the street. The men I had sex with, I thought I could trust them. A lot of times I thought they were going to stop and rescue me. They were doctors. They were teachers. They were law enforcement. And they took advantage of me. The hopelessness at that moment was overwhelming. And I guess you could say I accepted my fate. I remember the very first time that I was injected with drugs, and I didn't really care about anything anymore. I was arrested for soliciting for prostitution, possession of marijuana, possession of cocaine, shoplifting.
So one of the main things that they noticed is that in our law, a law that was passed 7 years ago, individuals could have their prostitution charges expunged. But that was the only thing. Well, they noticed that when people are being exploited, not only could there be prostitution charges, but they may have been forced to steal from a store. They may have drug charges. There may be a multitude of other charges that happened while they were being exploited.
I had to go to jail for the 6 months of drug possession. I didn't want to go back to the street when I got out. But where was I going to go? I had burned bridges with all of my family, even rehab centers. And there was a church lady in the parking lot picking me up that day. And there was also a trafficker in the parking lot. She was waiting for me to resist him. I didn't have any idea where she was going to take me, but she empowered me by just being there. I went up to him and I says, I have to get rid of this church lady. I'll meet you down on the strip in 15 minutes, and he left. I got in the car with the church lady and she took me to Mom's house.
I remember we always told my mother, you can't take her back. She's going to do this thing, can't take her back. And when she got a job finally and decided to, really got herself straightened out, we didn't really recognize that. She had to kind of prove herself all over again.
There was one day when I knew my brother trusted me. Big Spanish dinner. We didn't have any more pop. My brother says, he handed me his Cadillac keys and he says, why don't you go get us some more pop? I knew he trusted me then. That was the beginning. I was able to show them that I'm reliable, that you can depend on me.
When I was on the Michigan Women's Commission, I had the opportunity to meet quite a few survivors of human trafficking. And one of my favorites was Ruth Rondon. I give her so much credit. She decided to take her past experiences and do better for other children in their lives.
She also broke free from a drug addiction. She broke free from the control that the human trafficking cycle had over her. She was able to reconnect with her family that she had been estranged with for a long period of time. And those things in and of themselves are amazing accomplishments that she was able to do.
And that's why I just adore her. She is a champion. She's one of my heroes, and I think she should be a hero of our state.
A state representative, Mary Whiteford, asked me to speak at the state capitol. So I did. I gave a 30-minute presentation. And the media was there, and there was a lot of people there. And I remember in the crowd, somebody came up to me and gave me a card, and it said, the Joseph Project. time went on, and I couldn't volunteer for different things, and I could see it was still holding me back. I was still afraid that my new neighbors would find out about my past. So I looked on YouTube, and I saw the story about the Joseph Project, and I said, I gotta call these people. They connected me with Kelsey from Warner, Norcross, and Judd.
Because Ruth's convictions were in the 1970s and 80s, plenty of time had passed, and of course Ruth was eligible for expungement.
Part of our job responsibilities is when somebody files a motion to set aside a conviction, we have to appear in court for those types of motions. So most of these motions that come across my desk are single-page standardized forms. I received one that had a brief attached to it, so that's pretty unusual. And it's at that point that I read the brief, which contained a lot of information about Ruth and her story, and instantly I was intrigued. A law had passed in Michigan which allowed victims of human trafficking to have certain convictions expunged if they could show by a preponderance of the evidence that these convictions resulted because of them being trafficked. And she was the first person that came across my desk that actually took advantage of that particular statute.
At the end, the judge didn't even take a minute to say that he was going to grant our order and was going to expunge those convictions. And it was a very overwhelming moment.
Well, let me just say this: it's my privilege to be to enter these orders at this time, setting aside these convictions for you, ma'am. You certainly have benefited the public immensely, and you've earned the benefit of the law here. And I'm happy for you that the law changed, so you're able to have these items removed from your record.
Part of progressing as a society is recognizing that maybe at some point we're doing something wrong. So we change the laws, we adapt to fix these past wrongs. And for Ruth being a victim of trafficking, and again, this goes back to the fact that she did not have a choice. But for the fact that she didn't have a choice, she would not have a criminal record. There's no question. I mean, you get to know Ruth, she is such a sweet human being that there's no chance she would have gone down that path voluntarily. She was forced into it. And so many people are. Yeah, it was great to actually be able to seal the final deal on her total conviction expungement. So now she's got a perfectly clean record.
That was a big thing for her, getting that record expunged. But emotionally, it was huge for her. It was wonderful.
That judge, and that prosecutor, and that lawyer, see how God's hand has worked in my life? He put the right people in my path all through my whole life. He cared for me when I wasn't even caring for myself. All of my charges have been expunged from my record. It's over. They're all gone. Nobody can hang anything over my head anymore. I got the piece of paper in the mail that said it's official. Your record has been expunged, and I kept that one. I almost want to frame it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to lie. I don't have to hide anything. I can let my true self be seen.